Marooned. Dr. Ilara Chen's eyes flicked between the three holographic displays surrounding her workstation. Something wasn't right. The environmental readings from Helios 9's core systems had been fluctuating for the past hour, subtle changes that the station's Ardanian crew seemed oblivious to. Or perhaps, she thought with growing unease, they weren't oblivious at all. Station I, run diagnostic on life support systems. Authorization Chen Epsilon 421. She commanded, her voice steady despite the knot forming in her stomach. Diagnostic in progress, Dr. Chen. The synthetic voice responded. Warning. Anomalous energy signatures detected in central hub. Life support systems compromised. Estimated functionality. 72 hours remaining. Ilara's fingers tightened around the edge of her console. As the only human xenobiologist aboard the massive research station, she'd grown accustomed to being an outsider among the towering scaled Ardanians. But the coldness in Station Commander Vrax's compound eyes during this morning's briefing had been different, calculating, almost anticipatory. The station-wide alert system suddenly blared to life, bathing her lab in pulsing red light. All personnel. This is Commander Vrax. The guttural Ardanian voice echoed through the speakers. Critical system failure detected. Proceed to evacuation pods immediately. This is not a drill. Ilara grabbed her data tablet and rushed toward the corridor, nearly colliding with a group of Ardanian scientists, moving with surprising calm given the circumstances. Their scales shimmered under the emergency lights, facial membranes fluttering in their species equivalent of whispered conversation. What's happening? She demanded, falling into step beside senior researcher Thex, the one Ardanian who'd shown her any measure of respect during her 6-month assignment. Thex wouldn't meet her gaze. Catastrophic cascade failure. Very unfortunate timing. Timing. Ilara echoed as they approached the junction that would take them to the evacuation bay. What's that supposed to? The security doors slammed shut in front of her, separating her from the Ardanian evacuation route. Override. Security override, she shouted, pressing her palm against the scanner. The system flashed red. Access denied. Through the reinforced viewport, she caught Thex's gaze. The Ardanian finally looked at her, multifaceted eyes revealing not surprise but resignation. I'm sorry, Dr. Chen. Thex's voice came through the intercom. Coalition protocols dictate resource prioritization during critical evacuations. The pods, they're calibrated for Ardanian physiology only. The blood drained from Ilara's face. That's a lie, and you know it. The Coalition requires all stations to accommodate all member species. Thex's neck membranes fluttered nervously. The commander deemed your presence problematic. Your research was getting too close to sensitive information. What sensitive information? Ilara demanded, but Thex had already turned away, joining the other Ardanians, streaming toward the evacuation pods. Through another viewport, Ilara watched in helpless rage as dozen after dozen of escape pods jettisoned from the station, carrying away every single Ardanian crew member. Not one pod had been reserved for her. When the last pod disappeared from view, Ilara slumped against the wall, heart pounding. She wasn't a soldier or an engineer. She was a scientist specializing in interspecies microbiology. But she was also the daughter of two of Earth's premier survival experts, and their most important lesson echoed in her mind. Panic kills faster than any external threat. Station I, she called out, forcing her voice to remain calm. Give me full status report on all systems. Primary systems compromised. Secondary systems operational. Life support functional but deteriorating. Estimated time to critical failure, 68 hours, 42 minutes. Ilara nodded, pushing herself to her feet. Show me the origin point of the system failure. A holographic map of the station materialized before her. A flashing red indicator marked a section she'd never accessed. Sector 17, a restricted area that Commander Vrax had personally declared off-limits to her. Well, she muttered, gathering her tablet and emergency kit, looks like I finally get to see what they've been hiding. The journey to Sector 17 was eerie. The massive station, typically bustling with over 300 Ardanian scientists and technicians, now echoed with nothing but the hum of machinery and occasional automated announcements. Ilara used her scientific clearance to bypass several security checkpoints, but the final door to Sector 17 remained stubbornly locked. "Typical," she muttered, examining the security panel. Ardanians were notorious for their biological security systems, designed specifically to their physiology. She couldn't fake the membrane pattern or body temperature required. But Ilara hadn't survived 6 months as the only human on an Ardanian station without learning a few tricks. From her emergency kit, she extracted a small device, technically banned under coalition regulations, but a common insurance policy among human specialists working in potentially hostile environments. "Sorry about this," she whispered to no one in particular as she attached the device to the panel. The security bypass worked its magic, and 30 seconds later, the door slid open. What she found inside made her blood run cold. Sector 17 wasn't merely a restricted research area. It was an illegal bioweapons laboratory. Tanks lined the walls, filled with organisms that defied coalition ethical research guidelines. Gene sequencers and molecular assemblers hummed quietly, continuing their work even as the station slowly died around them. "They're weaponizing the Krell bacteria," she whispered, recognizing the distinctive cellular structures displayed on a nearby monitor. The Krell pathogen was harmless to most species, but deadly to the Navoxi, the Ardanians' main political rivals in the Galactic Coalition. Ilara's mind raced. This wasn't just about getting rid of an inconvenient human who might have stumbled upon their secret. The system failure was deliberate, designed to destroy evidence of illegal research while conveniently eliminating the one witness who might report it. But they'd underestimated her. "Station I, is there any way to stabilize life support systems?" she asked. "Affirmative. Manual recalibration of core reactor possible from Engineering Control Center. Success probability, 31%. Not great odds, but better than the 0% chance of survival if she did nothing. Show me the fastest route to engineering." As she navigated through the labyrinthine corridors of the massive station, Ilara's scientific mind was already formulating a plan. The Ardanians had left her to die, assuming the station's imminent destruction would eliminate both her and evidence of their crimes. They never considered that they were leaving behind not just any human, but one with specialized knowledge of both interspecies biology and Ardanian physiology. One who now had unrestricted access to their most advanced research and the entire infrastructure of a coalition deep space station. When she reached the engineering deck, she bypassed the main control room and headed straight for the quantum communication array. If she could get a message to the coalition about the Ardanians' treachery, at least her death wouldn't be meaningless. But the communication system had been thoroughly sabotaged, not damaged by the system failure, but deliberately destroyed. Someone had taken a plasma cutter to the main transmitter. "Of course," she muttered. "Can't have any inconvenient distress calls." She turned her attention to the life support systems. The Ardanians had been more subtle here, introducing a cascading failure that looked accidental but would ultimately render the station uninhabitable. However, as she analyzed the system logs, she realized they'd made a critical mistake. The station's reactor wasn't failing. It had been manually programmed to initiate a controlled shutdown, a shutdown that could be reversed. For hours, Ilara worked feverishly, redirecting power, bypassing damaged systems, and creating makeshift solutions with materials at hand. Her father's voice seemed to whisper in her ear, "When you're out of options, change the parameters of the problem." 17 hours after being abandoned, drenched in sweat and trembling with exhaustion, Ilara finally stabilized the station's core systems. Life support was restored to 87% efficiency, not perfect, but enough to give her months rather than days. "Station I, status report," she commanded, collapsing into the engineer's chair. Core systems stabilized. Life support functioning at acceptable parameters. Station structural integrity at 92%. Ilara allowed herself a moment of satisfaction before the gravity of her situation settled back in. She was alive, yes, but still alone on a massive station with limited supplies and no way to call for help. Or was there? Station I. Can you access the navigational data for the evacuation pods? Affirmative. All pods programmed to rendezvous at Ardanian Outpost Krell 7, approximately 2.4 light-years from current position. Ilara's eyes narrowed. And can you access the station's defensive systems? Defensive systems accessible, but currently offline. A slow smile spread across Ilara's face. The Ardanians had left behind something far more dangerous than a helpless human scientist. They'd left behind a brilliant mind with nothing to lose and access to their most closely guarded secrets. Station I need complete schematics of all offensive and defensive capabilities of Helios 9. As the holographic displays filled with weapons systems she'd never known the research station possessed, Ilara felt a cold determination settle over her. The Ardanians thought they'd left her to die, but instead they'd handed her the tools of their own destruction. Begin full system diagnostics on all weapons platforms, she commanded, and give me complete access to the data in Sector 17. She had 3 days before the Ardanian evacuation fleet reached their outpost. 3 days to transform from prey to predator. 3 days to turn their abandoned station into a weapon of retribution. Commander Vrax and his crew weren't coming back to rescue her. They were coming back to confirm the destruction of the station and all evidence of their crimes. They would expect to find debris and a dead human. Instead, they would find Helios 9 very much operational, with a very alive and very angry Dr. Ilara Chen waiting for them. Reckoning. The Ardanian evacuation fleet would return in exactly 64 hours. Ilara knew they wouldn't risk leaving evidence of their illegal bioweapon research floating in space. They would ensure the station's destruction, then report its loss as a tragic accident. Her death would be a footnote, if mentioned at all. Not if I have anything to say about it, she muttered, studying the station schematics. Helios 9 wasn't merely a research station. It was a marvel of coalition engineering. Ostensibly designed for peaceful scientific pursuits, it nonetheless housed defensive capabilities for emergency situations. What constituted an emergency, Ilara was discovering, was surprisingly broad in scope. Station I, show me weapons systems status, she commanded, settling into what had been Commander Vrax's chair in the command center. Defensive pulse cannons, operational. Proximity mines, 24 units available. Shield generators, operational but at 76% capacity. Not bad, but not enough to fend off an Ardanian military escort, which would undoubtedly accompany the returning scientists. She needed an advantage, something they wouldn't expect. For the next 12 hours, Ilara worked tirelessly, dividing her attention between 3 critical tasks: fortifying the station's defenses, researching the Ardanians' bioweapon program, and attempting to establish some form of communication with the outside world. The communication array remained stubbornly unresponsive, despite her best efforts. The Ardanians had been thorough in their sabotage. The quantum transmitter was beyond repair with her limited resources. She would need to rely on shorter-range systems when the time came. As dawn would have broken on Earth, though in space, time became a theoretical construct rather than a lived experience, Ilara made her first breakthrough. She discovered that the station's eye had subroutines she hadn't been authorized to access, subroutines that suggested a level of sentience beyond mere programming. Station I, she asked, do you have a designation beyond your function? A pause, longer than milliseconds typically required for AI processing. The Ardanian crew refers to me as Station I or computer. My core programming designation is Helios Intelligence Matrix, abbreviated as HIM. Well, HIM, Ilara said, leaning forward, I believe the Ardanians have violated your core directives by using this station for illegal weapons research and attempted murder of coalition personnel. Specifically, me. Another uncharacteristic pause. Assessment. Accurate. Coalition regulations specifically prohibit bioweapon development. Commander Vrax's actions constitute a Class 1 violation, which means you're not obligated to follow his return protocols. Ilara pressed. Correct. Chain of command defaults to highest-ranking coalition officer present on station. Ilara smiled. That would be me. Acknowledged. Dr. Ilara Chen recognized as acting station commander. Full system access granted. With him's cooperation, Ilara's options expanded dramatically. The AI revealed hidden subsystems and protocols that Commander Vrax had concealed from non-Ardanian personnel. Most crucially, him provided access to the station's emergency beacon, short-range, but powerful enough to reach coalition patrol routes if positioned correctly. Him. Can we move the station closer to shipping lanes? Affirmative. Maneuvering thrusters operational. Fuel reserves at 82%. Plot a course that will put us within beacon range of coalition patrols while minimizing visibility to the returning Ardanian fleet. As the massive station slowly adjusted its position, Ilara turned her attention to Sector 17. The bioweapon research was even more advanced than she'd initially feared. The Ardanians hadn't just been modifying the Krell bacteria. They'd been perfecting a delivery system designed to contaminate entire planetary atmospheres. But their research contained a critical flaw that only a xenobiologist of Ilara's caliber would notice. The bacteria's protein shell, modified to target Navoxy physiology, had an unexpected vulnerability to certain compounds found in Ardanian biochemistry. They were playing with fire they didn't fully understand, she muttered, running simulations on the lab's computers. With a few modifications, this weapon could affect Ardanians as well. Ilara wasn't a weapons designer or a soldier. Taking lives, even Ardanian lives, went against everything she believed as a scientist and a human. But as she studied the station's defensive options, she realized she didn't need to kill her returning adversaries. She just needed to neutralize them long enough to expose their crimes. 48 hours before the Ardanians' expected return, Ilara Chen began the most important work of her career. Using the advanced equipment in Sector 17, she modified the Krell bacteria to create a non-lethal variant that would temporarily disrupt Ardanian neural functions, effectively a biological stun weapon that would incapacitate without killing. What's the status of the station's atmospheric filtration system? Operational at 94% efficiency. Can it be reconfigured to disperse biological agents throughout specific sections of the station on command? Affirmative. Such protocols exist for emergency decontamination procedures. Perfect. She would turn the Ardanians' own research against them, a fitting justice for their betrayal. With 36 hours remaining, Ilara moved to the next phase of her plan. She instructed him to reconfigure the station's proximity sensors to appear malfunctioning, creating the illusion that the station was indeed failing as the Ardanians had intended. Meanwhile, she reprogrammed the defensive systems, setting careful parameters to disable rather than destroy incoming vessels. 24 hours before the expected confrontation, exhaustion threatened to overwhelm her. Ilara had barely slept since being abandoned, running on stimulants from the medical bay, and the powerful cocktail of fear, rage, and determination coursing through her system. Set an alarm for 4 hours from now. She finally conceded, making her way to the medical bay where she could rest under the watchful sensors of the station's systems. Dr. Chen, may I suggest a 6-hour rest period? Human cognitive functions deteriorate significantly after extended sleep deprivation. 4 hours, she insisted. We have too much still to do. She awoke to him's urgent alert, not 4 hours later, but barely 3 into her rest cycle. Dr. Chen, proximity alert. Vessels approaching at high velocity. Ardanian signatures detected. Ilara bolted upright, heart hammering. They're early. Show me. The holographic display revealed 5 vessels approaching, 3 evacuation pods and 2 military escorts. The Ardanians weren't taking any chances. "Battle stations," she commanded, surprising herself with the authority in her voice. "Initiate Protocol Omega." Protocol Omega, her carefully constructed plan, began to unfold. The station appeared to drift, power fluctuations creating the impression of imminent core failure. Defensive systems remained powered down, but primed for immediate activation. The modified bacteria were loaded into the atmospheric system, ready to deploy in specific sections on her command. "Incoming transmission," Him announced. Commander Vrax's reptilian face filled the screen, expression unreadable to most humans, but revealing smug satisfaction to Ilara's trained eye. "Helios 9, this is Commander Vrax. We've returned to assess station damage and recover critical research data. If any personnel remain, respond immediately." Ilara took a deep breath and activated the comm system, making sure to sound weakened and desperate. "Commander, thank God. This is Dr. Chen. I'm still alive. Life support failing. Need immediate evacuation." Vrax's membrane fluttered in surprise. "Dr. Chen, your survival is unexpected. Where are you located within the station?" "Medical bay," she lied. "Please hurry. Prepare for boarding. We will retrieve you shortly." The transmission ended. "He's lying," Ilara told him. "They're coming to finish what they started." "Assessment likely correct," the AI responded. "Ardanian vessels are approaching Docking Bay 3 but have weapons systems activated." "Let them dock," Ilara instructed. "Seal all bulkheads between sections and prepare to implement atmospheric protocols on my mark." From the command center, she watched as 2 Ardanian military vessels docked. Armored troops disembarked, moving with precision that confirmed her worst suspicions. This was no rescue mission. "Dr. Chen," Commander Vrax's voice came through the station comms. "Please remain where you are. Our teams will reach you shortly." "Of course, Commander," she responded sweetly. "I'm so grateful you came back for me." She tracked their progress through the station's internal sensors. 2 squads, one heading toward the medical bay where they expected to find her, the other moving directly toward Sector 17 to destroy evidence of their illegal research. When both groups were positioned in sealed corridors, Ilara gave the command. "Him, execute Atmospheric Protocol 9. Throughout selected sections of the station, imperceptible particles dispersed through the ventilation system, her modified bacteria, engineered to target Ardanian neural pathways. Within seconds, the effect became apparent as armored soldiers stumbled, then collapsed, incapacitated but very much alive. Commander Vrax, who had remained on his vessel, immediately recognized something was wrong when his troops stopped responding. "What have you done?" he demanded, his voice crackling over the comm system. Ilara activated the visual feed from the command center, allowing him to see her seated confidently in his chair. "I've given you a taste of your own medicine, Commander. Quite literally. This is an act of war against the Ardanian collective." Vrax hissed, facial membranes flaring with rage. "No, Commander. This is justice for your crimes against the Coalition. Your illegal bioweapon research. Your attempted murder of a Coalition scientist." She held up a data crystal, all documented and ready for transmission to Coalition headquarters. "You're bluffing. Communications are disabled." Ilara smiled. "Are they?" "Him, show the Commander our current position." The holographic display revealed Helios 9's new location, directly in the path of a scheduled Coalition patrol route. "Emergency beacon activated," Him announced. Vrax's compound eyes widened. "You can't do this. You don't understand the politics at play. The Navoxi." "Save it for your tribunal, Commander," Ilara interrupted. "Your troops are temporarily neutralized by a non-lethal variant of your own bioweapon. They'll regain consciousness in custody. You think you've won." Vrax snarled. "You're one human alone on a dying station." "Am I?" Ilara raised an eyebrow as the station's defensive systems came online, target locks appearing on both Ardanian military vessels. "Surrender now, Commander, or I'll be forced to demonstrate just how operational this dying station really is." For a tense moment, she thought he might call her bluff, force her to either back down or fire upon his ships, potentially killing dozens. But Vrax was a scientist first, a pragmatist second, and he recognized when the variables no longer worked in his favor. "Stand down," he finally ordered his remaining crew. "Power down weapons." 6 hours later, Coalition enforcement vessels arrived, responding to the emergency beacon. They found an exhausted but triumphant Dr. Ilara Chen, 47 incapacitated Ardanian military personnel, and Commander Vrax and his officers confined to their ships under the watchful sensors of the station's defense systems. The evidence was irrefutable. The bioweapon research, the deliberate abandonment of a human scientist, the attempted destruction of a Coalition research station to cover their crimes. The diplomatic fallout would reverberate through the Coalition for years to come. As Ilara finally boarded the human vessel that would take her home, Captain Torres of Coalition Enforcement handed her a datapad. "Preliminary report from Command," he explained. "They're recommending a Coalition Star of Valor for your actions." Ilara shook her head. "I don't need medals, Captain. I just did what anyone would do." Torres raised an eyebrow. "Survived being marooned in deep space, neutralized an illegal bioweapon program, captured a rogue Ardanian commander, and prevented an interspecies incident. That's not what anyone would do, Doctor." As the Coalition vessel pulled away from Helios 9, Ilara watched the massive station through the viewport. For 6 terrifying days, it had been both her prison and her salvation. "Will you return to xenobiology research?" Torres asked, following her gaze. Ilara considered the question. The experience had changed her, revealed capabilities she hadn't known she possessed. The Ardanians had abandoned her, assuming human resourcefulness was no match for their technology and cunning. They had learned their mistake. Perhaps others needed to learn it too. "Actually," she said, "I've been thinking about a position with Coalition intelligence. I hear they're looking for analysts who understand both alien psychology and survival tactics." Torres smiled knowingly. "I might know someone who could fast-track that application." As the stars stretched into streaks of light around them, Ilara Chen closed her eyes, finally allowing herself to relax. The Ardanians had left her for dead, never imagining that a lone human could transform their station into a weapon of justice. Their mistake, humanity's triumph.